welcome back to my channel. My name is Sian. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more kinds of videos. There are loads on this channel, all different. I'm sure you'll find something that you like, and if you do subscribe, click on the little bell so you get a notification when I upload. I'm here with what I read in December, and there were only 3 books this month, which is slightly disappointing. And also I really didn't enjoy one of them, which never normally happens. So yeah, I'm going to tell you about that because I don't even remember the last time I read a book that I didn't enjoy as much as this one. So let's crack on and tell you about them. The first book up was Lost for Words by Stephanie Butland. Now this featured in my winter to be read, so I have read it in winter, woohoo! It wasn't particularly the easiest book to get into. I just really found it hard to get going with the story and to like the characters, but it definitely changed throughout the story and I really kind of ended up wanting to read it. So the first half of the book probably took me a good week, which is quite unusual for me, and then the second half probably took me a couple of days because I genuinely wanted to know what happened next. The story follows a girl called Loveday, and she works in York in a bookshop, and it kind of tells a tale of her past, her present, and kind of tells her story basically. She's working in a bookshop with a guy called Archie, and the first time she ever went into that bookshop she was 14 and on a school trip, and she stole a book, and she ended up working there. She was in foster care, but you only kind of find that out in the middle of the story because initially it tells the tale of her mum and dad and how loving that relationship was. So you kind of really want to know what's happened for that relationship to break down. And it is a really intriguing book. There are some real twists which are really interesting and I definitely didn't see them coming. And it did make me cry, it made me happy. She was in a bit of an abusive relationship before, and I think she's just had a really rough time of it basically, and she meets this guy called Nathan who comes into the shop, and you just end up kind of willing her to get together with him. I'm obviously not going to tell you what happens because that would totally spoil it, but this was a really enjoyable book in the end after a slightly slow start. Definitely recommend it. The second book I read this month is called Fly on the Wall by E. Lockhart. Now I read We Were Liars by E. Lockhart in the summer and absolutely loved it. So I thought, brilliant, I shall read this book and I'll really enjoy it. How wrong could I be? I hated this book, and I don't think I've ever said that about a book, or certainly not kind of since I've been doing these videos, which is 2 years this January. So yeah, I really didn't like this book. I loved the beginning, really got into the story, was really enjoying it, and then she turns into a fly. Like, the lead character turns into a fly, which was just a step too far for me. I'm sorry, it was just too silly a thing to have happened, and I appreciate it then enabled the author to look at things from a different point of view, but it just didn't work for me, and I was willing it to because, like I said, I read We Were Liars and absolutely loved it, and I've got another book by E. Lockhart to read now. I'm slightly hesitant after this one, but I'm sure it's going to be fine. I'm hoping that this was just like a little blip, and I'm sure there are loads of people who love it. I mean, John Green says it's brilliant, and I love John Green, but it didn't do it for me. I think maybe I'm just too old for it or something. I just couldn't deal with the fact that she turned into a fly. Probably should have got an idea from the fact that it's called Fly on the Wall. But yes, I'm not going to recommend it. Try it and read it. I would love to know if you have read it and if you enjoyed it or if you didn't enjoy it, because I would really want to know if it's just me, or if it's not just me. But yeah, I just, no, sorry, didn't do it for me at all. The final book I read this month is called The Colour of Water by James McBride, and I spotted this thanks to Reese Witherspoon. I follow her Reese's Book Club on Instagram, and she was interviewing an author who was talking about this book and saying that if there's one book you read in your lifetime, it should be this. And it's about this boy. It kind of tells a tale of, it's basically the story of James McBride and also his mother. So he sort of interviews her because she's never really told him about her family or his family, and it really goes into a lot of detail about race, about America, about class, about civilization, and basically his mother was a Polish immigrant and was white, but never said to her children what colour she was. She married a man of colour and had children, which in the time that this sort of happened, the sort of early 30s, 40s, was kind of unheard of. Well, not unheard of, but certainly not approved or encouraged at the time. And he always wants to know what colour he is, and his mother tells him he's the colour of water. She never really says, you know, you're a specific colour. She just says there are more important things to life. There are things like education. You need to get your education. It doesn't matter what your colour is. You need to go and further yourself, find out who you are, don't worry about colour. And she just has this absolutely fabulous attitude, and it tells a tale of her as a young girl growing up where she lived in the south and then moving up to New York and just feeling at home. And she ended up having 12 children, most of whom went on to university and into things like medicine. She raised these children pretty much by herself. This book shows so much kind of grace and compassion, and his mother was an incredible woman, and the way that he tells the story of her and the way that she's led her life without prejudice of others, even though everyone seems to be prejudiced against her because she doesn't fit in the community she's living in with the people of colour, and her kind of the white people don't accept her because she's gone to live in this other community, and she's been raised a Jew as well, and so she just seems to have like everything against her. And it's such a heartwarming tale. It's lovely because she really has had a tough life, but she hasn't let it stop her raising her children and raising them really, really well. She had this great kind of hierarchy system in the household because there were lots of children spread out. The eldest child of the house was the leader. They were in charge of what happened, of controlling the other siblings, of kind of ruling the household. And obviously the younger children looked forward to the day that they were going to be the eldest and be in power, and that once the oldest people were in power they enjoyed it too, so it was kind of a win-win situation. I think she definitely had it sussed on the parenting front. I could possibly learn quite a lot from her. But anyway, I really, really enjoyed this book, and it was one that took me a long time to read because although I was really enjoying the story, I didn't necessarily want to pick the book up to read it, but when I did pick the book up, I really enjoyed it, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I'm glad that I did read it, and I'm glad that I stuck at it. I think partly it's because it's got really small font, and I don't know what it is about really small font, but it was hurting my eyes to read. Anyway, that's enough of excuses. I loved it. Definitely recommend reading it, and I think there are so many valuable lessons that everybody could learn from reading this book. And that's it. I only read 3 books this month, and I was quite disappointed with that, but it was simply because Christmas was manic. I didn't quite get the time I thought I would to relax, and there was no kind of, I normally read when the kids are swimming, and they obviously didn't go to swimming lessons, and when my daughter goes to karate, and she obviously didn't go to karate lessons, so I didn't really have much time to just sit and read. So I'm really hoping that I'm going to get more read in January, basically. I haven't made a good start, I'll be honest. But let's hope that the rest of January get a lot read, so you have a big update in February. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to, then please subscribe, and I will see you again soon. Alright, bye!